Welcome, everyone. You are now listening to Voices of the Millennials with your host, Elle de Lyon, and you are listening on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. And today we have with me a very special guest, someone that I really respect in so many of the fields that I'm involved in, be it from community service to wellness even in the arts. This individual has been someone that's been very influential in my enlightening up. This is a term that I've recently heard them using. And I think that it's something that's very important and very pertinent for millennials to be mindful. And one of the ways that I have been able to be mindful, also to keep my peace of mind and my sanity and be able to be productive, is through meditation. And so I thought it would be great if I brought through someone that I respect in this game, who can help us shed some light on this topic and how this can be beneficial for our lives, as millennials, but as anyone. Like, this is, I think, a practice for anyone. It is an ancient practice. It's not new, but I think in modern times, we're trying to find a way to marry the philosophies of the ancient world to the reality of our modern lives. And so I know this person is going to drop some gems today. So if you have a notebook, as I always tell you, open that up or just open up your mind as we dive in to meditation and the benefits of that for millennials. All right. So today we have with us Morgan O. Smith. Morgan, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me, El. It's always been an honor. You had me on other things before, so it's just a great honor that with the new show that you have, that you were nice to reach out, and of course, I was more than willing to do it. So here I am.
Yes, amazing. And thank you for always being so willing. You've really, I know, recently the organization that I work with, in my day job, Rise, recognized you as being a community advocate. And one of the ways I think that you really helped the young people in the community is through the group that you run, Sight Beyond Sight. And I know that's heavily um, based in meditation and the practices that kind of surround it. And so I thought that, like, let's just start out with meditation, and even why did you think it's an important topic to bring and like start a group around it and have people discuss these things?
Simply because meditation is the one thing that changed my life. Um of course, everybody knows about like traditional methods such as counting your breath, staring at a candle flame, trying to empty your mind, and things of that sort. But what I came across years ago, which was a little over 20 years now, actually, no, it's actually longer than that, like 20, probably 21 years, but I became really serious with this type of method the last 20 years, or a little over 20 years, is with brainwave entrainment. And I remember the first time trying brainwave entrainment. For those who don't know what that is, there's different forms of brainwave entrainment, but the one I'm specifically talking about are called binaural beats. And binaural beats, just to give a quick idea what that is, when you take two tones and say the two tones are slightly different from each other. So just say if you have a tone of, I don't know, 12 hertz in one ear and another tone of 10 hertz in your other ear, uh, the side of your brain will produce a brainwave frequency of 2 hertz. So it will take the difference of the two tones, and that's what your brain will resonate to. So years ago, I believe it's probably about maybe over 40 years now, maybe 50 years. Actually, this goes back 100 years. It goes back 100 years. But back in the 70s, they realized that when you use these tones in the right manner, it puts you in the same brainwave states as meditation states based on the science that the studies that they were doing. They realized that your brain falls into the same states as the meditative states that advanced meditators and yogis and individuals of that sort will fall into. And so it started a whole craze back in those days. But back in those days, they still didn't have. I don't think they even had stereo headphones yet. But they were experimenting with like alpha brainwaves and and that sort. But what happened was when the internet became a thing, a whole craze kind of started up again around the whole idea of using binaural beats, especially when headphones became a thing, stereo headphones became a thing. it really made these things really effective. So a whole new craze came out of that. And then from that, different companies got together and started coming up with their own products and things of that sort. So back in, gosh, what was year was it? 2003?
Mhm.
No, earlier than that, 2003 or 2002. See, I think I know all this information, but in the spot, I just forget. I think it was 2002, 2002, maybe 2003. Um, well, 2002, I was introduced to light and sound machines. Light and sound machines use binaural beats in their sessions, but they also use flickering lights. And when I tried that stuff, I was pretty amazed at what that stuff can do. So later on, I wanted to go into more advanced methods using more advanced technology. So I found another organization that were using low carrier frequency brainwave entrainment. And low carrier brainwave frequencies is like a game changer. It's a whole different thing than just using binaural beats as its own, but lowering the carrier frequencies is equivalent of you extending your time in traditional meditation. So I got into that, and even just from the first week of trying this thing, actually the first day of trying this thing, something pretty extraordinary at that time happened, and this continued, and it got more intense, and some things were absolutely mind blowing and great, and other things were terrible. Some things were the purging of the body and things of that sort, which I came to know as Kundalini syndrome. But most of the times, nothing ever happens, and it doesn't feel like anything is happening. But other times, you have these extraordinary experiences that would happen, and then I noticed over time that certain things that were part of my psyche started to drop. So, like if I had a phobia in a certain thing, the phobia would drop. I would no longer have that phobia, or other cases like for people that know me for years know that I have anger issues. One of my biggest things, even though I didn't act out in anger all the time, but when I did, it got pretty nasty. But I realized that over time, that changed as well. I still get very, very angry, but I only get angry if I'm fighting for a cause. So if I'm fighting for the rights of someone or for something, I can still use that same level of anger without breaking anything, but I can still use that same amount of anger and without getting into any fights and deal with the issue that's at hand. And I can just drop it. And I couldn't do that before. Before I'd get angry and I hold on to it for days or hold on to it for weeks. But now I can deal with an issue and just drop it and just go right back to normal like nothing happened because I've dealt with the issue and I'm no longer attached to what just took place. So all these things started happening. And I was like, whoa, knowing myself very well, these were things that were very, very challenging. And I started to notice that even not just phobias, but even triggers some certain triggers start to fall away. And a lot of stuff. I used to get nightmares all the time, and those went away as well. And I was able to fix relationships that I had with certain people that I held a grudge against. Those things fell away, and the list kept on going with all these emotional and mental stuff that would start to change. And I was just like, wow, this technology is quite amazing. And then it went from there. It went even further. That was just some of the emotional stuff, and then some of the mental stuff started to change, where I became more creative. I've always been a creative person. For people that know me, I have a background in stand-up comedy and music, songwriting, some acting, and the list goes on. Later on, of course, I ended up doing a TV show for 9 years, which I had to use some acting ability and things of that sort. But I would never really call myself an actor. But I was able to. I was always been like a TV personality type of human being. But I realized that some of those things got enhanced when I started using this technology, and a whole bunch of other things started to change. And then some of the stuff were physical, a lot of physical stuff, and then it became more spiritual. And the spiritual stuff is the stuff that really blew my mind and made huge changes in my life, and not only in my life, but the way how I perceive reality. So the way I perceive reality now is more, I would say, it's more from a broader lens, and I would say I now see things from a bird's view as opposed to seeing it from the perspective of a snake. And a lot of that just changed. Things and how I look at things became more integrated, where I don't really see things as separate parts. I see them as a whole, on. So I will look at a situation and I do see the two separate parts, but from my standpoint, I see how the two sides complement each other, and it could be something. It could be anything. It could be. I know we have a lot of race relations. I look at race differently. I look at gender differently. I look at life differently. And but the goal, my main goal, even though I wanted to be more creative and more intelligent, those things I really really wanted, but my real goal was on the spiritual path. I wanted to know who I actually was, and so that became my search. Maybe about maybe 4 years in, because I've been doing this for 20 years now. So like religiously for 20 years. I actually been doing it for 21, but religiously for 20 years. But
Mhm.
my goal was enlightenment. That was the main goal. And brainwave entrainment, especially what the program that I created, which is called Energy, it can do just that. So yeah.
Okay. And thank you so much because, from that experience, although I do know you for, a number of years, I think that there's a lot of folks. We even had someone, Charles, who it was our host previous to me. So shout out to him for tuning in. Thank you all the way from the continent. And so I would love to dive into, with all of these things that you have learned and how I really love what you talked about in saying that one of the ways that meditation has helped you and the practices surrounding it uh, is that you've been able to develop a broader lens on your perspective and you can have a different relationship with things that used to frustrate, anger, or bring out certain emotions and responses, behaviors, things like that. You now have more, I would say, control over those things. Like you have I think the decision making process definitely expands with meditation. That's one of the things that I have found, that I just take more time to analyze what the response to this situation should be.
Yeah,
I don't
not as impulsive.
exactly that sense of
Yeah.
urgency and anxiety has dissipated. So I definitely resonate with those things that you mentioned. For you in and I guess this would be a great time to mention that one of the reasons I really wanted Morgan to come on today is because he recently wrote a book, and there are some people who can see this book right now in Facebook land and all the streaming platforms that we're on. And remembering that right now you are listening to Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio online, and we're streaming to 130 countries. So hello to all of them. That being said, this is the reason why I really wanted Morgan to come on today. He wrote a book recently. This is your first book ever?
Technically my first book. Technically.
Technically. I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
when you said that,
Co-wrote
I was
a
like,
book before
"Really?" I
called
feel
The
like
Guy Behind the God with
yeah.
Arian Herbert, right? So technically, this is
Okay.
my first
Solo.
solo
Amazing.
project.
And
Yeah,
congratulations. The name of the book is Bodhi in the Brain, Yinergy Meditation, a technological path to enlightenment. And I love that because so much of our lives are based around technology. Like near the end of this book, I love the chapter that talks about like bringing the ancient world together with these technologies that kind of exist now, and how to mitigate those things and navigate them and really not go crazy. Like keep your sanity and your peace and amidst all of these changes. So all of that to say, I would love to know, in this book that you wrote and everything that you have been through, what is like the biggest takeaways that you think that you would like your audience to have, like your purpose, I guess,
mm.
for writing this. And
My purpose, the period, is enlightenment. That's the purpose. But of course, not everybody's ready for that. And also depends on what we mean by enlightenment, because it can
Mhm,
mean different things to different people. I realize that when I talk about enlightenment and talking to somebody else about enlightenment, that we're talking about two different things.
mhm.
But of course, all the other things outside of enlightenment, 'cause that's always my goal. That's all. You know me for so long; it's all I ever talk about. Um,
Yes.
but the other things, of course, is enhancing and raising your emotional intelligence, your mental intelligence, your level of creativity, uh, lowering stress, reducing anxiety, and the list goes on. Those are like some of the main things. One of the things that brainwave entrainment does, especially energy, is whole brain thinking. It helps to promote whole brain thinking. So what that means is most of us, when we go throughout our daily lives, like the reason why I'm able to look at things from a broader standpoint and kind of dissolve the distinction between two sides is
Mhm.
because it's the brain. Most of our brains are um, more dominant on one side over the other. So some of us are more left brain thinkers, which makes you more logical, mathematically oriented. So logical, mathematics, analytical, things of that sort. And then you have the right brain, which is more creative, open-minded, emotional, and the list goes on. Could be even be like intuition, psychic abilities, that type of stuff would be more right brain. The goal, though, is which I believe is the goal is to balance the two sides equally,
Mhm.
right? So even though you may still be more prominent in one area, you'd be able to use your the two sides of your brain equally by knowing how to use whole brain thinking. So what people should know that even though I have two eyes, two nostrils, two arms, two legs, my right side of the brain is controlling the left side of my body, and the left side of my brain is controlling the right side of the body. So everything crisscrosses. So when you use things, technologies like Eunergy, as much as it's pushing the brain and the nervous system to evolve, it's also balancing out the two hemispheres of the brain. So just by physically changing the brain, it has an effect on how you see, because everything you're doing is with your brain. So it has an effect, a huge effect on how you start to see things and how you start to feel things and everything. So all my five senses, or would say, is more enhanced than the average person. So
Mm.
a lot of people think it's like, oh, I don't. You seem. It seems like when people meditate and they get advanced, they lose their emotions. And I said, well, I can't speak for everyone, but what this stuff does, it enhances your emotions. It enhances your feelings. So your sense of taste enhances, sight enhances, not necessarily in terms of making you more 20/20 vision. You just have more awareness in what you're looking at. Smell becomes enhanced. Everything you touch becomes enhanced. Everything, the way you hear things, become enhanced. You hear musically different. You hear music differently when when you're balancing out the two hemispheres of your brain. So everything changes in your reality, and that's the basic goal of what something like energy can do. But energy can go all the way all the way up of not only making you see a reality a certain way. It can help you with shadow work. So if a person is doing shadow work, trying to deal with past wounds, dealing with dark shadows, energy in combination with other techniques can really enhance that. It enhances the foods that you eat, enhances vitamins that you take. It also enhances nootropics. Nootropics would be like certain nutritional um, herbs and foods that enhances your mental ability. It enhances those. It enhances shamanic practices, things of that sort. And by far, so if you have a shamanic practice and it takes you to 50, energy can take you to 100. Not just energy, but any type of brainwave entrainment that has low carrier frequency technology and all that type of stuff. But Unity can take you all the way to you coming to know your actual self. And when I say yourself, I don't mean you, the ego. I mean the thing that dissolves the ego. There's a thing that's behind the whole thing, and I shouldn't even say behind, but there's something that is much greater than the ego itself, and you can come to realize what that actually is. And when you come to realize what that actually is, and I mean fully, you realize that, at least from a mystical standpoint, that you realize that you're the universe itself and beyond. And advanced meditation practices can do this, including brainwave entrainment practices like energy.
Mhm. And, so I wanted to touch upon 2 things that I heard you say. One, I definitely want for you to explain more about how you engage with the energy, practices, like, especially with the um, entrap
Brainwave entrainment,
brainwave
wave entrainment,
entrainment.
entrainment.
Brainwave entrainment. So how you engage with that. Like I've had several different ways that I've personally engaged with it. So I'd love for you to just kind of break down some of the, the basic ways that you can get involved, especially after reading this book or those kind of things. And then there was something that you touched upon that I just want us to like dive into. Wasn't like a planned thing that I was going to talk about, but
Okay.
what you just mentioned about this idea that when you become more enlightened or as you practice meditation more, and I've heard this criticism as well, that you lose your emotions. Suddenly people see you as being very affectionateless, not moved very easily. But that's kind of the point. Like for me, at least, like I'm not trying to affect things anymore. Like I want to allow things to have an effect and for me to respond to that instead of me trying to think that I have this big control over my environment. And
Mhm.
then at the same time, not being easily moved. I think that maybe that unnerves people when you're
It
not
does.
like you don't
It really
respond.
triggers people.
Think a little bit harder before you respond. Like you take more than a second before you say,
Before you respond.
you
Yeah.
know. And then that being said, I'd love to, and then you also mentioned this idea that feeling, like I don't know, tell me what you think about this. So when you mentioned the senses and that by engaging in the brainwave entrainment that you can also heighten your senses such as smell, touch, hearing, seeing. Now, feeling, that word is often synonymous with emotions like anger, happiness, and sadness. But then feeling is also synonymous with senses like seeing, hearing, all those kind of thing, touch. So I'm just wondering, like, do you see any parallels in there? Have you ever had any discussions about that? And is there any relation to like energy, meditation, and like making I guess, a clear definition between those things? Like we can heighten our senses and
You can
our
heighten your
feelings,
senses. Hmm.
but then to the outside world, it seems like we're dulling our emotions, like the way we evoke the
Well,
emotions.
that's because when you act out in your emotions, because you can still act out. It just depends on the individual because people are different. People have different genetic stuff. But um, the when a person gets closer and closer to wholeness, you're
Mhm.
not just experiencing one. You're not experiencing one sense over the other, right?
Mm.
You're experiencing all of them at the same time, and experiencing them all at the same time, which makes the difference. It's kind of like the distinction between hot and cold water. Everyone knows that distinction. Everyone also knows the extension of warm, but warm is the mixture of hot and cold. But
Mhm.
everyone knows that warm feels different than hot and cold. It'll be the same with your senses. So you're no longer necessarily uh, um, being distinct with one sense. You're using all your senses all at once, and using your senses all at once has a different feeling than just using your sense of touch.
Yes,
And that's the
yeah.
difference. So the reason why I don't have to act out on everything, because when you tell me, if you give me bad news, I feel everything, right? I also think everything. I see the goodness in it. I see the bad in it. I see all of it, but I don't see it as separate parts. I see them as a whole. So when I see them as a whole, it's hard for me to respond in a way where you see it as he's showing compassion or he's showing empathy or all those things. I am showing those things, but I'm experiencing what you're telling me of everything all at once. So
Mhm.
as you give me bad information, I can already see from a broader view why that could be a good thing. Maybe not necessarily for the ego, but for the human experience that the spirit is having.
Talk about it. I love
Yeah,
that summation.
that's one way to look at it.
Yes,
Yeah, and I want people to understand that because when you're sharing, sorry, I think our delay is off. I apologize. I apologize for that. But when someone is sharing something with me, I want people to understand that I do empathize with what you're saying. It's just I just don't see it from one point of view. I see it from many different point of views. But sometimes when you express a different point of views, people think that you're just trying to be analytical and you're trying to brush off the issue. It's like, no, no, no. I'm trying to see if I can give you another perspective so that I can relieve you from your suffering.
right. And I think
Yeah,
that that is such an important point that you brought up that I have definitely experienced that scenario where now that I have been engaged in meditation for so long, I definitely resonate with that idea that I feel everything all at once. And so, therefore, when I'm presented with information, I don't even really consider things to be good or bad because they're just things that are happening and that require my attention or they don't. Like, and so
yeah,
I just decide
either,
in
yeah,
those moments, in the present moment, when it comes, is this something that requires my attention? And what kind of attention am I going to give it? Like, which of these senses am I going to involve? But when I receive it, it's like everything kind of like ignites. And then me and myself have a conversation about what we're going to do about this thing. And so I
hmm
really love like what you're saying, that with the energy practices, like this is something that you can become more aware of, that you have the ability to do this, because these are not magic tricks that we are sharing. These are things that humans have the ability to do if they practice, and if they
if they
engage with it.
practice.
Yeah, if they practice, if they
And I,
practice.
if they practice, and I want people to know that I put in thousands of hours of this. So um,
Yeah.
this is not this is not it's not an easy thing, but your brain can adapt to the different changes that the brain is capable of doing. So I may have done at this point over maybe 8,000 hours of this stuff,
Okay.
right? So um, by able by having the ability to do that, not only am I able to see things without distinction, but can also, if the situation is happening to you in the moment, we also have to we have to remember that you're one person out of billions of people. Um, you are a cause, and you're the cause and the effect of other things. Something caused you to be that way, and the way how you're acting now is going to be the cause, which leads to another effect. So if
Hmm.
you're able to look at it from outside of our individual selves, you realize everything that's happening to you is part of how the universe functions and how the universe will come to be, whether the universe is expanding and evolving or if it's coming to an end. You're the cause of that. So if we talk necessarily, we still have to worry about, think about our personal individual issues that are happening, but everything that's happening to us, there's a larger thing that's happening at hand. And that's where my mind is. I'm thinking about the universe.
Yeah.
While I may be dealing with my personal stuff and dealing with your personal stuff. And I'm not here to say I don't have any challenges. I still have many challenges, but the journey of it has changed in regards to it's more of a hike or a
Hmm.
camp opposed to being forced in a situation that I don't want to be in. So everything just broadens because I'm always, what is the cause and the effect of the entire thing at hand, and our roles with that. So it changes. But you had something before. I didn't address the first thing that you wanted me
Oh,
to address, but if you can
well,
remember, I don't remember what it is. But
yeah, well, it's essentially more so like, I guess, the technical side of how can we engage in these practices
the
beyond,
technical
like, as
side of it. Oh
meditation.
yes,
Like, I started
yeah.
learning
The
it
first
was,
one, yeah,
yeah, breathing in and out and trying to just control your breath in different ways, like counting with it, maybe holding
oh
at your
yes,
inhalation. But the energy kind of takes it, like, well, several steps ahead. Yes, breathing is involved, but it's more about what it's doing in training your brain, with the binaural beats. So I'd love
yeah.
to,
Because
like,
you
get
don't have to
more
do any, yeah,
into. Exactly. You don't have to do
yeah. Because you
anything.
don't
So
have
I
to do
thought,
anything. You don't have to do
exactly. I'm like, I
you don't have
should
to
be
do any
listening to this
technique.
at night.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, all you have to do
Like,
is just
as you
listen.
sleep.
So all you have to do is put the headphones on, and the way how the entrainment's been designed, which I've also designed, it entrains you. So all you have to do is
Mm,
sit there with your eyes closed. But if you're trying to do something that's a little more advanced, we also believe in cross training. Cross training is very, very important. So if you want to do cross training and you want to evolve even faster, then I would recommend that you add in another technique. So, and that could be another, it could be traditional meditation that you do along with your energy. You could do that. That's one way to do it. Or you can do other things like studies have shown that people who lift weights and meditate, their meditation practices evolve. They evolve from a meditative standpoint, just from adding weight training to their meditation. So if you're already a person that goes to the gym, that's one thing because you're using it to for health, build muscle, or to define the muscle, refine the muscle. But if you add meditation to that, it enhances your meditation practice. You
mhm.
can do that through cardio. You can enhance your meditation practice through that. And these are just physical stuff, right? On the other end, you can do a self inquiry. You can add that to your meditation. You can add um, shadow journaling, where you may journal about maybe triggers that you have, and you write down, why do I have this trigger? Why does it bother me? What are the effects of this particular trigger that I have? And you can also on the other end listen to your energy, and that's a form of cross training too. You put those two together, and that will do a certain level of cross training. But basically, all you have to do is really sit there, sitting up. I prefer legs crossed, headphones on. You sit there for an hour.
Mhm. And, in saying that, because something you said before is, like, really, you don't have to do anything, like, you can just sit there. Can you just lie there can you just sleep there? Like, are these other ways that you can engage with the practice? Like during sleep, can this work? Like if you were to leave it on your head, in your headphones and just sleep with it?
I don't recommend it only because it's not a sleep aid. But a lot
Hmm.
of people do use it as a sleep aid, but it's not really a sleep aid. But people do use it that way. My whole thing is about discipline. So if I'm able to sit there, legs crossed, sitting with my back straight, it's going to teach me a level of discipline along with in training my brain. But you could lie on your back and do it that way. It's still effective. You can do it before you fall asleep. Still effective. But my thing is, can I get myself in the position um, where I can discipline find discipline in a certain practice so that every day I'll do the same thing every day because there's a lot of benefit in that alone, even
Right.
without energy, just by discipline. So I would prefer people sitting up, even if it's feet on the ground, feet flat on the ground, back straight, listen. But if you have a bad back or you can't sit up for very long, laying down would be the next best thing. You could do it again. You could do it while sleeping. It still works. It still works. But I don't think the person's getting the discipline part of it, which is very, very important as well. Because
Yeah.
this discipline is easier than other disciplines. You don't have to hold your breath. You don't have to do any of the mantras. You don't have to do any of that. You were just asking you to sit there with your back straight. I was finding if people can't do that, they may lack a lot of discipline. But
And
everyone's
then
different.
maybe that might be the reason for some of the
Right.
issues they might be
That may
experiencing.
be the issue, but everyone's different, right? Everyone has different, and some people may be disciplined in other areas and may not be disciplined within that's fair too. But yeah, that's what like to promote. But yeah, you can use it in those ways too. I just don't have the studies to show for it.
Mhm.
I have to go by actual people's accounts, and I've never done it that way. So I can't say, well, I did it this way for a period of time. I've never used it as a sleep aid. I've always used it sitting up, back straight, unless if I was like really sick, because I have never missed a day in 20 years. So even if I was sick, I'll still try to sit up, and if I couldn't, I would lie down and do it on my on my real sick days, like down with the flu, having COVID or something. I may be lying down, but I'm still doing it.
Mhm, mhm, and, in talking about, the discipline aspect of it as well, do you find or do you recommend, like, is there anywhere in your book that you talk about, like, times of day that you recommend that people get
Oh
these
gosh,
things?
someone just brought this up yesterday.
Mhm,
Someone sent me a text. My boy Prime.
okay.
Yes, he sent me a text. He's the leader of the Moors Temple in Toronto.
Okay,
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So he just started using energy as well, and he's been promoting the book. So he asked me, is there a better time to use it during the day? Should you use it in the morning or use it at night? You can do whatever time you like, unless you go by an actual Eastern practice where within their practice they say that waking up at I don't know 4:30 in the morning is the best time to do it. Then continue following that practice. So you don't have to change. It's compatible with any spiritual practice, any religious practice, any therapeutic practice. So any practice that you're already doing, you can just add energy to that. But for me, I wake up 6 o'clock in the morning every day and I do it at that time. But it doesn't matter what time. I don't believe there's a better time to do it. There are times where your brain is producing more melatonin. That is true. So
And
during
when
the
are
nighttime, you're
those
producing more melatonin. But I
okay.
don't think that matters on a wide scale in regards to what would be best to use the energy. Because the times that you're not producing more melatonin, you're producing more serotonin, and they're both two important neurotransmitters. So you just choose whatever works for you. I just want you to be as comfortable as possible when you're doing it.
Mhm. And, I'm hearing we're speaking a lot about really the science and I'm going to say like the art or slash religion of this practice. Because I'm hearing, neurotransmitters, for instance, and like some of like serotonin and melatonin. For me, those are things that helps to ground my spiritual or like religious or art practice when it's like grounded in science or, some sort of academic practice. And I know that there's other people who are out there that feel that way too. I'm wondering for you, what came first for you? Was it the practice, like the spiritual side when it came to meditation, or was it the science that you found? Because I found in reading your book, you had, for me, I thought it was a really great balance of both. I loved how you brought in all the different practices, like the ancient practices you just mentioned, that you can put together with the energy, and then you can practice both of them, and then, maybe even speed up your evolution. So I was just wondering, in your personal experience, how did these practices come to you? Like, is it more the technical side, and where it does your interest lie? Like, where do you hope to kind of take this, the study of it?
It's a good question. When I first started, the technical side is what grabbed me first.
Hmm.
I didn't care about spirituality and none of that stuff when I first started.
Hmm.
Um, I was intrigued by it because I read the science behind it. So and because the program that I was using before I created Unity had tons and tons of information on the scientific side. They also had tons and tons of information on the spiritual side as well. So after I read the science stuff, I read the spiritual stuff, and I said, I want that.
Hmm.
So as time went on, I became more intrigued by the spiritual. But it was the technical stuff that got me, and also too, I already had background in musical engineering, so I already had some stuff that I already had in my toolbox. So when I read the science behind it, I wanted to learn everything about the science. So I went and jumped in and learned more about sound physics. I had to go study more mathematics and a list of other things just so I can get that stuff down. And as I kept growing spiritually, I became more intrigued by the spiritual side of it, only because of my personal experiences of what happened. That it was so profound that it blew away any form of knowledge that I accumulated. It blew away everything I've ever done in my entire life. The spiritual side is what really, really did it for me. But I believe, from my standpoint, I got there because I know the science behind it. I feel that I can do this with anyone if the person is committed to doing it. If you're not committed to doing it, I can't help you. But if you're committed to do it, I believe I can do this for anyone because of the science behind it.
Yes, and
I know
I
how to
love
mimic it. I know how to reproduce it. I can do all that stuff. Yeah, I know
exactly.
what happens in the brain. I know what happens in the nervous system. I know it, all those things. I know it correlates with what happens with the brain, how that correlates to non-dual suchness, and all the different states that happens from the physical state to the subtle states to the causal states and to the non-dual states.
And I think that that's what I appreciated about your book so much. It felt like, I usually walk around, or I used to, especially when I first started learning about meditation, visiting temples, and just taking in what everyone had to say about how to find yourself at peace. I definitely, like you, I felt a lot of people said I had an anger issue. So I finally started to think maybe I should address it. And I found myself in temples, things like that. Also, some physical issues brought me to yoga, and then bam, it all
And
made
bam.
sense to me. But that being said, why I mentioned that is because, I'm just wondering for you, in helping yourself to come to these practices, or what I love so much about your book, that's what it was, is that instead of me walking around with everybody's like Bible and doctrine and whatever, because I used to like collect all these books, and then I'd walk around with all of them and try to remember who had what and where. I love that your book is really succinctly put together a lot of the practices that brought me to my stage of enlightenment, like where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
And so I
because
would
they're all important. Yeah.
exactly. So I love that. And because I was even thinking, oh, Morgan, like tell us some resources that we could do to or look
Mhm.
at, to like heighten our enlightenment. But it is right here. It's right
Yeah,
here.
I try to
Matches
put it all in there.
like it matches me. So I think that
Yeah.
everyone should go get this book, Bodhi in the Brain. Can you tell us like a little bit about the title, of why you selected it, and maybe just a little like last words on enlightenment, and how, or if we can achieve enlightenment here right now in our present bodies, or is this something that we attain after? Like, are we just here on earth trying to get ourselves ready for that? What's your like final thoughts on that? And I'd love to know why you called it Bodhi in the Brain. And then we have a special treat for our guests today. We're going to get into a
Mhm.
little meditation with
Well, let
more.
me see if I can address Bodhi in the brain first before
Awesome.
I'll easily forget that.
Yeah.
Bodhi comes from the word. If you hear the story of Buddha when he became enlightened, that happened under the Bodhi tree. So that's
Ah.
where that word comes from, Bodhi. Bodhi is also attached to a word called bodhisattva, and bodhisattva is one way to look at it, because there's different definitions of it, but one way to look at it, it's when the individual is when the individual delays in spiritual enlightenment to wait for all sentient beings to become enlightened. So they delay their own enlightenment until all sentient beings gains that.
And what is that
Um,
called, you said?
they're called bodhisattvas.
Oh,
So it's like
interesting.
it's a form of saint. So
Yeah.
a bodhisattva. So that's their job. So they would delay their enlightenment, or some would say that they're enlightened, but they would delay nirvana until all sentient beings gain nirvana.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
So
when you
reason I
say
call it bodhi in
all
the brain.
beings, this is
Say it
everyone
again.
on Earth? When you're saying all beings,
All
like,
sentient beings, not just human
okay.
beings, animals, all sentient beings. That when they achieve it, then you enter into that. But what I know personally,
Mhm.
when you enter into the state of nirvana, you realize that all sentient beings are in nirvana,
Right. Like,
right? So the life search, what's happening in life is people are trying to attain it, but when you're in the actual state of nirvana, you realize that everyone's already attained that. It's
mhm,
always been there. That's all there is nirvana. What we're doing is um, having the human experience, creating a story of trying to attain that or trying to find happiness and so on. But you're already there. So
mhm.
there's nothing for you to gain. There's nothing for you to get. You're already there. You just have to open your eyes and realize, get rid of all the distractions and realize that you're already there. So
Right,
there's
and
really
stop
nothing to
trying
attain.
to
We're all in
orient
it right now.
ourselves. Right. We're already oriented. We're here. No
Yeah.
need to look around. No need
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Here, right now. Your job is just to open your eyes.
And I
Right.
love that that's like one of the places that we will kind of rest our conversation, because only because of time, because I actually still want to ask you one other question. I know we'll still have a little bit of time to do our meditation. So everyone who is at home, I want you to get ready. You're listening to Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, and we're with Morgan O. Smith and me, the host, Elle de Lyon, and we're talking about meditation and its benefits. We're going to get into a meditation. We're going to actually get to practice what we've been talking about today. And one last thing that I wanted to talk about is that um, I don't know the meditation that you've prepared for us today, but one thing that
Neither
I
do I.
very much into, I know, because you know, you go off the vibes, and I love that.
I go with
Right?
the flow at the spot. Yeah. I have a number
No,
of them that I would use when I work with people.
I wanted to know, because one of the things I've seen you do, and I really enjoy this, and I even want to explore this more in my practice with a lot of things I'm doing, is pairing music with these binaural beats, or with even guided meditation, like words. Maybe they're motivational, maybe they're affirmational, whatever they may be. Putting all of these things together, and I know you actually have a background in the science behind music, like musical engineering. So I just would love to know a little, just maybe a 1-2 on what your thoughts are about these two mediums coming together. Do you see this being something that should continue? Like, do you recommend it? Because again, discipline, like listening to music is a lot easier than listening to kind of like seemingly silence. Mhm.
A lot easier. Yeah. But not only do I have a music in musical engineering, I also have a music and music production
Mm,
and music performance itself. I used to be a singer. So before I became a stand-up comedian, I was a singer. I was an R&B singer.
mhm.
So that's what I did. But I also produced a lot of my own stuff. And then later on, I got into musical engineering. So music has always been a part of my life, regardless. But of course, I love the science behind it too. I like to know, why do people move? Why do people dance? Why are people moved emotionally? That intrigues me as well. So as much as music makes me move and does all these things, I want to know why it does it. So
Mhm.
I combine all these things together. Um, but in regards to, is it important to add music? It really depends on the individual. Some people enjoy that. I usually don't add music to my Energy program, only because you'd be forced to listen to the same music every day,
Mm.
and that would probably end up being a problem. So I try to go with more neutral things, such as like rain, the ocean, and things of that sort, only for that particular practice. But if we're doing like special practices where it's like a one off, just say if we're getting together to do some kind of Unity retreat, then I would use music because it's a one off. So you get to hear all the beautiful music. It may move you emotionally and all of that within that time period, but I wouldn't give it to you to give you the same music every day. and it would be hard for you to produce a new track every day with new music just so that you wouldn't get bored. So I go with the more neutral sounds to get people by.
Like the everyday sounds, as you were
The
saying.
everyday sounds, yeah. But for
Yeah.
specific things, yeah, um, that's where I use music a lot. If it's a specialty thing, a one-off type of thing. But music in combination with brainwave entrainment is very effective because if music moves you emotionally while your brainwaves are changing, you're doing another form of cross training, which
Okay.
could be very very beneficial in that sense. Yeah.
Yes, and I thank you for bringing that term back up, cross training. That bringing those things together, I have also experienced great benefits. So I hope that this conversation has elevated you to a new state, has brought you to a space where you can understand yourself a little bit better. And if you would like more information about the things we were talking about, there's a nice chunky book here called Bodhi in the Brain by my friend, colleague, mentor, everything all at once, Morgan O. Smith. Thank you so much for being here on Voices of the Millennials and talking to us about the benefits of meditation. And so I thought that it would be great. And thank you, Morgan, for agreeing to this. We are going to experience a meditation that is specially curated for our audience based on the vibes of today's show. So we are going to get into it. I'm going to stop talking and we're going to have 5 minutes of bliss, I'm sure. All right, Morgan, it's all you.
All right. So everyone who's watching and listening, I would like you to close your eyes. So as your eyes are closed, just breathe in normal. You don't have to do anything special. Just breathe in normally, breathing in and out through your nostrils, not through your mouth, but just through your nostrils. Breathing in and breathing out. As you're sitting there, if you can, keep your back straight. My back's a little bent only because of the position I'm in as I'm facing the camera on my computer screen. But for everyone else, keep your back straight. That's how energy moves through your spine. And as you're sitting there, I want you to relax the very top of your head. So just bring awareness to the top of your head and just think of relaxation. Relax your eyes. Relax your nose. Relax your cheekbones. Relax your jaw. Allow this relaxation to run down to your neck, all the way down to your shoulders. Now I want you to relax your biceps, relax your triceps. Allow this relaxation to run down to your forearms, all the way down to your hands, and all the way down to your fingers. Now, as you continue to relax, I want you to relax your chest, relax your upper back. Allow this relaxation to run down to your spine, all the way down to your lower back. Relax your stomach. Allow this relaxation to run down to your hips, all the way down to your thighs and your hamstrings. Relaxing your knees. Allow this relaxation to run down to your calves, all the way down to your ankles, and all the way down to your feet and your toes. As you sit there fully relaxed from head to toe, I want you to breathe into your nostrils. So you breathe in, all the way in, hold for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. Hold that for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. Hold for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. Hold that for another 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And breathe in. Hold for another 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. And hold for another 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as you sit there, fully relaxed from head to toe, I want you to think to yourself. You can say this out loud, or you can say it in your mind. I am at peace. I am at peace. I am at peace. I am at peace. Continue to breathe in and out. And then say to yourself, whether in your head or out loud, I am one with everything. I am one with everything. I am one with everything. With all individuals, with all animals, with all plants, with all reptiles, with all microscopic creatures. And as even though you're one with yourself, you're one with your physical body, you're one with every cell, you're one with the molecules, everything that makes up who you are, you're one with the atoms, you're one with the particles, and you're one with all subatomic particles that makes up who you are as a human being. Breathe in again. Hold for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. Hold for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. Hold again for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. Hold for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, say to yourself, I am at peace. I am at peace. I am at peace. I am one with everything, and I am one with the universe. Not only am I one with the universe, but I am the universe itself, which holds all things in existence, including my individual body of what I believe to be. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, hold for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. Hold for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. Hold for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. Hold for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Relax the top of your head. Relax your whole head. Relax your shoulders. Relax your chest. Relax your back. Relax your stomach. Relax your lower back. Relax your thighs. Relax your hamstrings. Relax your calf muscles. Relax your arms. Relax your forearms. Relax your hands and your feet. And again, say to yourself, I am one with everything. I am one with everything. I am one with everything. I am one with everything, because everything is me. Just sit there for 20 seconds. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You may open your eyes. And that's it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I almost didn't want to open my eyes because honestly, I felt so at peace and relaxed. I appreciate you taking the time to be here today, Morgan. And I hope that, everyone that's watching and who gets to watch after and who's listening will go out and get that book, especially if you want to experience some of the benefits that we've been talking about today on how meditation can help to elevate your life. You've been listening to another elevated conversation with your host, Elle de Lyon, and my guest, Morgan Smith, right here on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk online radio. Up next, we are going to be joined by the Bellas and Business. You already know what it is. Success is the new sexy is the show. Morgan, thank you again for being here. If you want to
Well, my
say
pleasure.
goodbye, peace, love, all of that. Thank you again. Peace and blessings, y'all. We'll see you next Wednesday, where we will be having another elevated conversation about the millennial lifestyle and how to navigate it. All right. Good night, y'all. Peace.